She says she's not interested but keeps checking your stories. She flakes on your plans but still replies with lol and maybe. You try harder and somehow she pulls away even more. Sounds familiar, right? What if I told you that chasing is the exact thing that's killing your chances, and the real way to get her attention is by doing less, not more? Look, it's frustrating when you like a woman and she's sending mixed signals. One day she's flirting, the next she's distant. And the more you try to prove you're a good guy, the more invisible you become. But what if I told you, you can flip that dynamic entirely. You can go from being the guy she tolerates to the guy she can't stop thinking about, even if right now she's cold or just not showing interest. And it doesn't require tricks, money, or pretending to be someone else. In fact, it's all about understanding what triggers her attraction instinct on a deep psychological level and using that to your advantage. Never chase a woman who shows no interest in you. I know that sounds bold, but it's the truth most guys never want to accept. You keep thinking that if you just try harder, if you just show her how much you care, she'll magically turn around and see your worth. But let me ask you something. Has that ever actually worked? Or did it just make her pull back even more? The reality is, chasing a woman who's not into you is one of the fastest ways to kill attraction. But here's the twist, and this is where it gets interesting. You can actually attract a woman who isn't interested in you, but it requires doing the opposite of what most guys do. It's not about being more available. It's not about pouring your heart out. It's about flipping the script completely and triggering something deeper in her psychology. Once you understand how women actually become interested in a man, you'll realize her current lack of interest doesn't mean a thing. Because attraction isn't logical, it's emotional. And emotions can be influenced. That's what we're diving into. A lot of guys mess this up right from the beginning. They meet a woman, maybe she's attractive, maybe she's a bit cold or distant, and they immediately think, I've got to prove myself to her. So they put on this version of themselves that's not even real. They text more than she does, compliment her too soon, overinvest without getting anything in return. They go out of their way to make her comfortable while slowly killing any sense of mystery or tension. And here's the worst part. They think that by being nice, she's going to appreciate it and suddenly feel something. But all they're doing is making it painfully obvious that they've got nothing going for them except the hope that she'll like them back. That's not attraction, that's desperation. And women can smell it a mile away. What you need to understand is that women aren't attracted to effort. They're attracted to presence, to confidence, to the way a man carries himself like he's the prize. When a woman feels like you're trying to win her approval, it tells her you don't value yourself enough. But when a woman feels like you're fully grounded in who you are, with or without her, that's when she starts paying attention. That's when curiosity kicks in. Because here's a simple truth. Most women are used to guys falling all over them. They're used to being the one in control, the one who gets chased, who gets texted first, who gets attention just for existing. So when a man doesn't give her that by default, when he doesn't automatically pedestal her or give her emotional power, it throws her off. Not in a bad way, but in a way that forces her to notice, to think, to wonder, why isn't he chasing me like everyone else does? That curiosity is where attraction starts, not through logic, not through words, through mystery. And the moment you stop trying to make her like you and start showing her that you're perfectly fine without her, that you've got options, that your time is valuable, that your energy isn't just handed out, you start planting seeds in her mind. She might not realize it right away. She might even try to test you to see if she can pull you back in. But if you stay solid, stay calm, stay focused on your own purpose and not her reactions, something starts to shift. That's when her resistance turns into curiosity. And that curiosity becomes the crack in the wall that lets attraction slip through. Now let me tell you a quick story that perfectly shows this in action. A buddy of mine met a girl at a party. She was attractive, smart, and, on the surface, completely disinterested. Gave him one-word replies, didn't ask questions back, barely smiled. Most guys would have taken the hint and walked away feeling rejected, but he didn't chase her. He didn't try to force a vibe that wasn't there. He made one or two confident remarks, didn't beg for attention, and then walked off like she was just another person in the room. A few minutes later, she started watching him from across the party. Still didn't approach him, but later that night, she followed him on Instagram. A week later, she replied to one of his stories. Today they're dating. Why? Because he triggered the one thing women can't resist: uncertainty. She didn't know how to read him. She wasn't used to that. And that opened the door. If you're still thinking this only works for high-value guys or men with perfect looks or money or status, let me stop you right there. This is not about being rich or famous or looking like a model. It's about being a man who acts like he has something going on, even if he's still building it. Confidence doesn't come from having it all. It comes from knowing you're enough without anyone needing to validate it. When a woman sees that you don't need her to feel good about yourself, she starts questioning why. Why is he so calm? Why isn't he giving me more attention? What's going on in his world that he's not dropping everything for me? That's when the dynamic starts to flip. That's when she starts chasing you, even if she wasn't interested at first. Let's break it down even further. You meet a woman, she seems cold. Don't panic. Don't overreact. Don't suddenly switch into try-hard mode. Most of the time, she's not cold because she hates you. She's cold because she doesn't feel anything yet. She hasn't made up her mind. And how you respond in that moment tells her everything she needs to know about who you are. If you chase, she assumes you're just like the rest. If you retreat and go silent, she assumes you're weak or insecure. But if you stay cool, relaxed, and even slightly amused, like her lack of interest doesn't faze you, now she has to wonder. And when a woman starts wondering, the game changes. Suddenly, you're not a guy trying to impress her. You're a guy she's trying to figure out. Most men don't get this because they operate on fear. Fear of rejection. Fear of losing their shot. Fear of not being liked. But here's what you need to realize. Rejection is just redirection. If she's not feeling it right now, that's not the end. That's just information. And if you react the right way, by not reacting emotionally, you actually increase your chances down the road. It's the men who panic, who become needy, who push harder, that lose every time. Why? Because women are emotional creatures. They feel before they think. And when you give off anxious energy, they feel it. It makes them pull away. But when you're calm, composed, detached, they feel that too. And it draws them in, slowly but surely. So let's talk about reverse attraction. Most guys think the way to get a woman's attention is to move toward her. More compliments, more attention, more availability. But here's the thing. Movement toward her only works when she's already interested. If she's not, your attention has no value to her. In fact, it starts to feel like pressure. And the more pressure she feels, the more she pulls away. What actually triggers attraction in a woman who's unsure about you is movement away. That doesn't mean ghosting her. That doesn't mean being rude or arrogant. It means pulling back emotionally, not trying so hard, and letting her feel the gap. Letting her notice the silence. Because it's in that silence, when she's not being bombarded with your attention, that she starts to feel something new. Curiosity, uncertainty, even frustration. And those emotions are powerful because they're emotional, not logical. That's when her brain starts asking, wait, why isn't he chasing me like the others? What makes him different? Did I misjudge him? This creates what psychologists call cognitive dissonance. She thought she had you figured out. She thought you'd chase her, fold for her, do what all the other guys do. But now you're not. And that creates a little bit of chaos in her mind. That chaos makes her want to resolve the gap between what she expected and what's actually happening. And how does she resolve that? She pays more attention to you. She gets curious. She starts to watch, observe, maybe even test. All of that is attraction in motion, even if she doesn't fully realize it yet. You're not manipulating her. You're just not feeding her ego for free. And in a world where most men do, that alone makes you stand out more than you realize. Now let's touch on something most men overlook: social proof. This is another layer of attraction that can completely change how a woman sees you, especially if she was neutral or even disinterested at first. Social proof is basically the idea that people, especially women, are influenced by how others respond to you. If she sees that other women like you, respect you, flirt with you, or speak highly of you, her mind naturally starts to ask, what am I missing here? That doesn't mean you go out and fake it. It just means you need to live a life where women are already part of your world in some way. Maybe you have female friends, maybe you interact confidently with women in public, maybe your online presence shows that you're social, grounded, and well-liked. All of that builds credibility in her eyes, even if she hasn't shown interest yet. Let me give you a real-world example. There was this guy I knew, super quiet, not the best looking, definitely not rich, but every time he walked into a room, women noticed him. Why? Because he never looked like he needed anything. He was always relaxed, smiling, talking to people like he knew something they didn't. And women picked up on that, even the ones who weren't into him at first. They watched how other girls responded to him, how he could hold a conversation without trying to impress. And before long, women who ignored him at first were suddenly leaning in, asking him questions, inviting him out. That's the power of social proof. It's not about bragging or showing off. It's about being seen as someone others already value. And when a woman sees that, it plants a seed in her mind that says, maybe I should value him too. Now, let's get into behavior. You cannot talk your way into attraction. You have to act in ways that trigger it, and that means creating emotional impact. One of the best ways to do this is through unpredictability. Not inconsistency, not mixed signals, but subtle unpredictability. When a woman can't guess your next move, when she doesn't know if you'll call today or wait until the weekend, if you'll show interest or just vibe calmly, that tension builds attraction. Because most guys are predictable. They text nonstop. They compliment at every chance. They respond instantly. You don't have to play games, but you do need to show that your world doesn't revolve around her. That unpredictability keeps her emotionally alert. It makes her check her phone more. It makes her replay your last conversation. And all of that is how emotional investment begins. Not when she's bored, but when she's unsure. There's also something called value framing. This is a subtle psychological shift that puts you in the position of the prize without ever saying it out loud. You don't chase, you don't brag. You simply act like someone whose time is expensive, someone whose energy is selective, someone who doesn't need anything from her, but is open to seeing what she brings to the table. That's a very different vibe from what most guys put out. Most guys go in with, I hope she likes me, but high-value men go in with, let's see if this is even worth my energy. You'd be surprised how fast that one change flips the entire dynamic. Because women feel that. They feel when a man isn't playing for her approval. And even if they weren't attracted at first, that emotional strength hits different. Let's say you're texting a woman and she's giving dry responses. Most guys would try to push through, ask more questions, send a meme, anything to keep the convo alive. But a high-value man just stops. He senses the lack of interest, doesn't force anything, and removes his attention. That silence does more than any text ever could. It forces her to feel your absence. And that feeling, that's where the shift begins. Maybe not right away, but it sticks with her. She starts to wonder if she misread you. She starts to miss the validation she thought she didn't care about. That's why you always hold your line. You don't overgive. You don't react emotionally. You stay grounded, unbothered, and patient. Because here's the truth. Women respect what they have to earn. They don't value what they get for free. And when a woman realizes that your attention is rare, that you don't just give it to every pretty face, that's when her interest spikes. You stop being a background character in her life and start becoming someone she can't quite figure out. That mystery makes her want to know more. That's the beginning of real attraction. Not when she's certain she has you, but when she's uncertain about how much of you she gets. Now here's something most guys will never admit, but every woman can feel. The more desperate you are to win her over, the less likely she is to be drawn to you. Women have radar for that energy. They can sense when you're not being your full self, when you're adjusting who you are just to try and fit what you think she wants. And that's the exact moment she mentally checks out. Why? Because it tells her you don't see yourself as enough. And if you don't see yourself as enough, why should she? That's the harsh truth no one wants to say out loud. But it's what separates men who spark attraction from men who stay stuck in the friend zone. Women aren't attracted to effort for the sake of approval. They're attracted to certainty, to groundedness, to quiet confidence. When you walk into a room and you're calm, observant, but not chasing anyone's reaction, you instantly change how people respond to you, especially women. You don't even have to say much. Your energy speaks before your mouth ever opens. So let's get even deeper. A lot of guys assume attraction is about what you do. Say the right thing, wear the right outfit, send the perfect text. But the truth is, attraction is more about what you withhold. The words you don't say, the attention you don't give, the emotions you don't spill all over the place right away. That's what makes you intriguing. That's what keeps her wondering about you. If you're always explaining yourself, over-communicating, trying to make her feel comfortable too fast, it kills the tension. And tension is where the spark comes from. So instead of trying to manage how she feels, focus on how you carry yourself, your posture, your silence, your eye contact, your pace. All of that creates atmosphere. And atmosphere is what lingers in her mind long after the conversation ends. Think of it like this. Attraction isn't built in the moment you meet. It's built in the space between. The time after you talk, when she's sitting there thinking, what's his deal? Why didn't he chase me like the others? Why do I keep thinking about that one thing he said? That's where the real magic happens. But none of that happens if you're too accessible. If she can reach you whenever she wants, if you answer every message right away, if she always knows what you're thinking, that doesn't mean playing games or pretending to be someone you're not. It just means showing restraint, holding back just enough to let her imagination do the work, because her imagination will always paint a more vivid picture of you than your words ever could. Now here's another psychological switch: scarcity. Not just in your time, but in your emotional availability. This doesn't mean being emotionally cold. It means being emotionally in control. If you're too eager to open up, too fast to vent about your past, or too quick to dive into deep emotional talks, it can actually feel overwhelming. A woman wants to discover you slowly. She wants to feel like she's earning access to your deeper layers, not like you're dumping everything out in the first few days. Scarcity builds value. It's the same principle behind anything rare. People chase what's not easily available. If you give her the whole emotional package right away, she won't feel the need to chase. But if you give her just enough, if you open up in small, meaningful ways over time, she'll keep coming back, wanting more. Here's where most guys fumble. They confuse being nice with being needed. Being nice is fine, respectful, polite, chill, but being needed, that's what kills attraction. If your energy says, please like me, she's already tuning out. But if your vibe is more like, hey, I like myself, I'm good either way, let's see what you're about, that flips the power dynamic instantly. She now has something to prove. And this is not about being toxic. It's about creating emotional equality. Because when a woman senses you're not seeking her validation, she starts seeking yours. That switch is everything. That's when she starts texting you more, dressing nicer around you, and giving you energy she didn't give before. Let me give you another real example. There was this woman who was surrounded by guys constantly. Compliments, DMs, thirsty energy everywhere. But one guy, he barely said a word to her, didn't ignore her, but didn't go out of his way either. He was respectful, cool, but didn't try to impress. And that confused her. It bothered her. She couldn't figure him out. Weeks went by, and she caught herself thinking about him more than the guys who practically worshipped her. Why? Because he didn't offer up his value immediately. He made her wonder, and that wondering created desire. That's the game most guys never even play. They're so focused on being obvious, they forget that mystery is one of the strongest attraction triggers in the world. Another thing that most men overlook: your frame. Holding frame means not letting your emotions get hijacked by hers. If she pulls back, you don't chase. If she gets emotional, you stay calm. If she tests you, you smile and hold your ground. That energy, that's rare. Most guys get flustered. They get reactive. They try to fix, solve, explain. But when you hold frame, you communicate something powerful, that you are your own anchor, that nothing she does can throw you off your center. And that's what makes her feel safe. Not your words, not your compliments, your energy. Women respond to energy far more than logic. If she senses you're calm and unshakable, she'll relax. She'll lean in. She'll start looking at you differently, not as a guy trying to win her over, but as a man who knows his worth and invites her to match it. But don't confuse that with being emotionless. Women aren't drawn to cold men. They're drawn to men who choose when to express emotion. That means you can be soft when it matters, but it's intentional, not desperate. You can be kind, even vulnerable, but it comes from confidence, not need. That's the kind of emotional presence that makes a woman respect you. And when respect is there, interest always follows. It might not be instant, but it builds, it grows, and it sticks because it's real. Now this is where the shift happens. You've gone from chasing to choosing, from proving yourself to simply being yourself. And because you've stopped needing her interest to validate your worth, she starts seeing you in a completely different light. It's almost like you've unlocked a side of her psychology that she didn't even realize was waiting to be activated. Women don't fall for the loudest guy in the room. They fall for the one who makes them feel something when he's barely trying, the one who listens more than he speaks, the one who makes her question what makes him tick. That mystery becomes magnetic. That confidence becomes addictive. And even if she wasn't initially interested, something inside her starts to shift. She starts reevaluating. She starts wondering what she missed. And that's the moment when attraction truly begins. Remember this, her first impression of you is not set in stone. It's just a snapshot. And if you change the energy you bring into the room, your demeanor, your self-respect, your willingness to walk away, you can change her entire perception of you. Think about that. You don't have to become a different person. You just have to stop bending to fit her world and start inviting her into yours. Most men shrink themselves when a woman isn't showing interest. But the right move isn't to get smaller. It's to get quieter, more centered, more rooted in who you are. That doesn't mean you ignore her or act rude. It means you stand tall. You speak with intention. You choose your words and your presence carefully. And because of that, she starts seeing you as someone worth paying attention to. And if you ever feel tempted to go back to old habits, to over-explain, to send that long message, to chase her down for clarity, pause, breathe. Let the silence speak for you. You'd be surprised how powerful it is to not react, to give her space and let her feel the loss of your energy. Because when she's used to being chased and suddenly you're not chasing, she notices. It messes with her expectations. And that mental disruption is the key to turning the tables. Now she's the one wondering. Now she's the one playing back your last conversation, thinking, did I mess that up? Why hasn't he reached out? And that uncertainty is fuel. It stirs. Curiosity. And curiosity turns into attention. And attention, if you hold your ground, can quickly turn into attraction. Think about how differently things play out when you reverse the usual script. Instead of proving yourself, you observe. Instead of reacting, you respond with calm. Instead of pushing for connection, you allow it to unfold. That's how you trigger a woman's deeper instincts, the part of her that isn't looking for just another guy trying too hard, but for someone who makes her feel something without even trying. It's a slow burn, but it lasts longer. It sticks. It makes her wonder where you've been all her life and why no one else makes her feel this way. And the reason why? You weren't chasing. You were just being a man who understands himself. And that kind of man stands out in a world full of guys who don't. Let's get even more real. Every woman you meet is used to being liked. She knows how to handle compliments, sweet talk, admiration. But what she's not used to is being disarmed by silence, by presence, by a man who doesn't need her to feel complete. That's rare. That's different. And the minute she senses that you're unaffected by her lack of interest, that you're not pressed for her approval, that's when you become interesting. Because now, she has to come to you. She has to try to understand you. She has to earn your focus. And it doesn't matter how she felt about you before. Once you shift that energy, you shift the entire relationship dynamic. That's when things change. And here's the final piece. Stop trying to win women over. That's a losing mindset. Instead, focus on becoming so solid in who you are that a woman choosing you feels like a win for her. That flips everything. The woman who didn't notice you before, now she's confused, now she's intrigued, now she wants to know what she missed. Because you're not seeking her approval. You're inviting her into your world and letting her decide if she can keep up. That's attractive. That's powerful. That's how you shift from being overlooked to being unforgettable. Watch the next video.